Friends, if you're looking for real old school laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember Mad Magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar, if you please. It's after dark and we're gonna light it up. Got some fun in store for you, no tease. It's time for Midnight Sesh. Dark, a little naughty, will hopefully make you chuckle, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody, so get ready quick on the double, cause it's time for Midnight Sesh After Dark.
Oh, yeah, kids. It's Thursday night. Time for the best show on YouTube. Well, after noon, I guess. Tonight, we're going to talk about Star Wars and more Star Wars and maybe some other stuff, but welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You understood that, right?
I did. We have Nick Weiser in the house. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing pretty good. I had some delicious orange chicken. I got some going for, kids and the lady. And I'm happy on Midnight's Edge. I missed you guys. It's been like over a week. So hello, chat. Hello, panel.
Yeah, you had to vote Tuesday, so you didn't show up.
That's right. It was Big Lee. Big Lee.
Well, I don't think if you did vote, we would have won. So I'm glad you did. I mean,
Well,
that one vote.
It was the hugest one. I even provided them the secret 33rd flavor, and it counted for double.
You were literally the only guy in your entire state that voted for him, it looked like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No,
according
Illinois
to
is...
the people in Chicago last night, anyway.
You know what the funny part is, if you look at the Illinois numbers, he actually was close, which hasn't happened for anyone on that side in many years. But he was actually close. He was less than 500,000 away. Usually it's like a blowout, like a major blowout, but he was the exception. So I was just like, well, and he even flipped a few counties right in Chicago. I was like, wow, that's a shock. I guess it shows you that the ones who are protesting truly do live in a bubble.
Yeah. Well, speaking of bubbles, somebody who lives up in Canada, Script Doctor.
Hey, how's it going?
How's the refugees going up there?
They keep getting lost, so we're actually really happy about that. They keep heading back to like Nantucket and Minnesota. It's quite funny. See what happens. Tom's muted himself.
So who did you vote for?
I can't vote in a U.S. election.
Yeah, you can. All sorts of illegals can vote this time out. They fought for your right to vote as an illegal.
Well, let's just put it that the right candidate got in office. So
either way. Anyway, I'm just kidding. Price, how you doing? We got Price of Reason in the house. What's up?
I'm good. How's it going?
I'm hanging in there. A little tired, been working all day. If you hadn't noticed, we dropped 2 videos already today.
yeah.
I've been so busy today, I kind of didn't even realize it, but I'll have
that's
to
no
catch up
problem.
and watch them.
No big deal. We're going to talk about one of the topics right now, actually, because I see we don't have any stuff to get out of the way, so we might as well just get right into it. we have a rumor, I guess, because it hasn't been confirmed or denied or it's just only been no comment from Lucasfilm and Star Wars, or Lucasfilm and Disney. Ugh. But word's going around that we're getting a new Star Wars trilogy with Simon Kinberg, everybody's favorite retard.
Guys,
No, actually, he's a competent retard. That's what he is. See, compared to...
He's not retarded.
He's not retarded. He's made mistakes, but more importantly, he's admitted to the mistakes he made and has apologized and said he wants to do better.
So a competent retard.
Well,
I mean, he wrote the same story twice and still fucked it up both times.
A well-intentioned,
not only that,
a well-meaning hack.
Story twice.
Can we settle on well-meaning hack?
Yes,
okay.
Well-meaning hack. Okay,
yeah,
what were you saying, Script?
Yeah. Remember, he sold it to idiots twice, so I mean that you can't be too dumb. Who's more retarded? The people that bought it twice, or the guy who pitched it twice?
The fool or the fool who follows him? How was that?
The fool who follows him.
Who's the bigger fool? But well, look, this is like, what are they doing?
They're desperate.
They haven't got a movie out
in 5 years.
5 fucking years.
Mm-hmm.
Not that anybody was clamoring for a Star Wars movie anyway, but I mean, and okay, so let's get into this before we get too deep into the mud. Lucasfilm has closed a deal, according to this, with Simon Kinberg to develop a trilogy of Star Wars films. Not just a movie, folks, but a trilogy. Kinberg will write the trio and produce them with Lucasfilm chief Kathleen Kennedy. I heard this individual being Mike Fleming Jr. This will comprise episodes 10 through 12 of the Skywalker saga that began with George Lucas's 1977 first film, which, along with Steven Spielberg's Jaws, reshaped the global blockbuster game. I don't know why that's even important here, but whatever. Insiders dispute my intel. Okay, they're disputing it, so you're saying that it's a rumor, but it's an exclusive. All right. And you say they closed the deal. All right. Let's hear that Kinberg will continue that storyline, saying this instead will begin a new saga and sit alongside the percolating Star Wars project with James Mangold, Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, Taika Waititi, and Donald Glover. Not to be confused with Danny Glover. As usual, the talented one. As usual, Lucasfilm and Disney are not commenting. All right, now before we get into who Kinberg really is, let's talk about this thing for a moment here, real quick. Because this is worded in a way that I think this person is saying that maybe Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy is out the door, or this person is writing that story, although this is supposed to be a separate one according to others. The other theory is that the Rey movie is dead. So who do we believe here? What's going on here? What's your guys' interpretation of this? What the fuck? Because yeah, I thought the Rey saga was supposed to be the next thing in line, and that's the de facto episode 10, 11, 12 I thought was the case. So I'm confused as
Charmin Lady's not going to make a movie.
No, she's
I
not.
agree.
The amount of canceled projects we have is starting to pile up as the amount of MCU movies that we have. We're starting to catch up. It's just like, wow, right now that we're at the point where we have the amount of phases 1 and 2, and maybe we're starting to pick up to Marvel phase 3. So we're going to be at the phase 4 of the amount of quantity. Yeah,
I think I know what's going on here. I think I have a good analysis. Tom, you said you've been watching Seinfeld lately. Have any of you watched the episode where George purposely leaves something at his girlfriend's
Not that
place?
there's anything wrong with that.
That George purposely, I think a woman wants to break up with him, and he purposely wants to leave stuff at her place. So
I
that
haven't got to that episode yet. So yeah,
I think
I know the one you're talking about though.
His girlfriend, I think, wants to leave him. So what he does is he leaves stuff at her apartment. So there's a reason for him to go back there. So like she can't fully disconnect from him. I may be wrong, but that's vaguely what I remember. This is Kathleen Kennedy, and every 5 minutes they're announcing another trilogy, another project, another anything, just to make it seem like there's something relevant that she's still doing. Maybe still trying to extend her contract or anything at all. I think this is all nonsense. They haven't made a movie in years, and I don't know that this one is going to get off the ground. And they needed somebody, maybe like a Simon Kinberg. They do something where they don't pay him all the money. They like sign some kind of deal that's like some flimsy thing, enough for them to be able to do this press release. But really, it's probably done in a way that they can also dump him in 2 seconds. There's no way that they rolled out millions of dollars now to pay this guy. I think this is all like it's a smoke and mirrors thing.
What do you think, Script?
Well, I mean, you're not even on Disney's side of things. You're not going to get $1 million for writing a Star Wars script. Sorry, it's just never going to happen.
Right.
You'll get somewhere between maybe 60 to 80,000 just for doing a draft with the way that Disney likes to negotiate. But it'll come with a pretty strong back end and a producer credit. So that's where your real money's going to come from. But they would never do it.
He's writing and producing. It doesn't say directing, but we don't know yet. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if he's writing and producing, like that means he's going to have a bigger paycheck for producing it than he is for writing it. But remember, he's also producing. He's been producing in development Logan's Run, an untitled Star Trek prequel, and then The Running Man.
I'll get to that. Yeah.
Like he's got a list of things that he's already doing. Logan's Run of those that I mentioned, Logan's Run is the only one that he's actually been trying to write and crack for the last few years.
Wasn't originally? Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, wasn't originally Bryan Singer supposed to be doing that?
Like 20 years ago, yeah. And then Matt Damon took over as a producer.
Oh, okay.
But Bryan Singer is persona non grata because he had pool parties. But I don't want to say more about.
No, I know. I was just curious if it was the same one and just Kinberg inherited it.
It's changed. It's changed hands as much as Barbarella has changed hands because that was Drew Barrymore's thing for 15 years, and now Sydney Sweeney has taken over. So
apparently,
one of those kind of things.
He had a lot of pool parties. Apparently,
I just wondered because of the connection between Singer and Kinberg if it wasn't something he inherited from Singer. That's what I was curious about.
Kinberg has a stronger connection to Donnie Glover. Sorry,
Donnie.
Because they worked together on the Mr. and Mrs. Smith Amazon series.
Well, it's because he worked on the original film too. But not only that, he's worked in Star Wars before. This isn't his first rodeo with Star Wars. He had a big part of Rebels. God, what else did he do? It says down here. And he did work as a consultant on A Force Awakens with JJ because that was the other thing I was gonna say. He is kind of one of JJ's.
Oh, well, that explains why he's part of the spots. Besides being
not like directly involved, but he's kind of like tangentially involved.
Yeah, because he got his big break.
He's like a slightly more talented Kurtzman, basically.
Well, he's a more humble version of it. Like he's the guy that every time he gets a step up and he fails, he always bounces back, and not through the connections of his friends, but usually through like the quality of his work. So he did the sequel to his Triple X, the State of the Union one, and then he did, as you mentioned earlier, the Mr. and Mrs. Smith film, which then got him The Last Stand, and then that hurt his career a little bit, but he managed to write Jumper and then befriend Guy Ritchie to do Sherlock Holmes. And the Sherlock Holmes, I think, was probably the best movie.
That's probably the only real successful thing he had in between there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's worked on shit like Fantastic, the X-Men crappy films.
The ones that weren't Matthew Vaughn. Yeah.
you're the one that didn't have Matthew Vaughn.
I have a question. Isn't it possible that just like, to sound good for investors, to sound like there's something in the pipeline, whether it's a Kathleen Kennedy maneuver or whatever it is, they say we're doing this trilogy, we got Simon Kinberg.
I think so. I think it's that, and I think it's like an insurance policy. Because here's the thing, Kinberg, and this is where I get where script is coming from. Kinberg is a very malleable guy. And Dearest, I'm not trying to sell you on this guy. If I had a choice between this guy and Goyer, I'd have to fucking think about it.
Ooh.
And if you know how much I hate Goyer, I'd probably go with Simon at the end of the day, but the point being, if I have to think about that, it's like I might as well just do it myself. Because, look, this guy, I think this project will happen in some shape or form, and I think it's an insurance policy for Kathleen Kennedy. I think you're right about that too, because her contract was supposed to be up last month or whatever, and if she's producing this is her just sticking her hooks in for at least another couple of years, whether she has a contract or not.
Even if she's Amy Pascal, exactly.
Exactly.
But,
so I think this might happen just because this is somebody who's not gonna rock the boat. The reason why, and he's one of these people like Kurtzman, where he can turn around and go, well, yes, he did take blame for certain things, but 9 times out of 10, he can just push the blame onto somebody else, because he's usually coming in and either cleaning up other people's messes, or he's just doing people favors because other people fucked up.
You think that there's a chance that this is basically part of the negotiation of Kathy exiting? Maybe they tell her, listen,
possibly
you'll do the Amy Pascal, we'll do the Simon Kinberg thing. You're still an executive producer on a trilogy. This will be your baby. Aside from that, you don't touch anything, and fuck you.
Well, there's
Disney has the balls to do that, which I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
Yeah.
They're so stupid. I don't know. I mean, people keep telling me she has a contract that makes it so that she'll never leave. I don't believe that there's a contract that they ever gave a person that they can never leave. I mean, I think that there has to be a situation where they can get her out of there. And the fact that they're not doing it, they're so stupid.
My point is, what I haven't heard anything directly other than I've heard rumors that basically it was kind of like this clause that George Lucas put in there that she is involved in some way that they can't necessarily just exit her, even if she isn't the head of Lucasfilm anymore. And Lucasfilm is also a separate entity from Disney. And I know you've talked a little bit about this before, Script, but like, so it is kind of, basically it's kind of set up in a way where like Lucasfilm is technically, yes, it's an umbrella under Disney, but all Disney does is just distribute Star Wars' things, kind of like with Marvel.
Yeah,
You've
the only
explained it
thing is
before.
that whereas Disney's subsidiary contract with Lucasfilm has a lot more ownership to it than compared to Marvel. That's
Right.
why. That's why it's harder to separate those two from each other than it would be for, say, Marvel. On the other part, too, just to correct you a little bit, Simon Kinberg has never blamed anyone else for his failures. He's always been the one that takes responsibility, which puts him at several tiers above
But what I'm
Alex
saying
Kurtzman.
is stuff that the bombs he's had in the last 10 years are shit that it's not his fault, really. Is what I'm saying.
He doesn't blame others. He says, I tried, I failed. I tried to help
my
out.
point was I was comparing it to the whole like Vince Vaughn thing where I've said that's what Alex Kurtzman can do, is he's somebody puts himself in a position where if something goes wrong, says, well, you can't blame me. I did A, B, C. Or in the times he has fucked up, I said I gave him credit for those times. That still doesn't make it right. At the same time, I mean, he's still working, so.
Well, Kurtzman does the whole, you can't blame me, I did this. Simon Kinberg says, I took my best and I still failed, I'm sorry. That's a big difference in politics with Hollywood.
Perhaps, but that being said,
I mean, it's not perhaps, it is a difference, but I get your point, is the fact that he's a reliable, malleable guy. He will bend to whatever producer is hiring him to get what's done. Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, though, because you did bring it up, was the Star Trek thing. I don't think this is happening. I think that's another reason why he's signing on to this. I did want to address it quick because it wasn't brought up in the video. But this was announced back in May, and I don't even remember if we talked about this or not, because we have gotten so many Star Trek movie announcements that we just don't even fucking give a shit anymore, because you guys don't give a shit anymore. Like last few times we've done a Star Trek video, they've gotten some of the least amount of views we've ever had on these videos before. So that being said, I think this deal is done, and I think a lot of this was kind of announced before the Skydance deal, if I'm not mistaken.
If it was May, yeah, because Skydance happened in late summer. So
I was gonna say, yeah, it was summer when that happened. So I think this is either a dead project or a project that's in stasis right now. So I think that's out of the way. So I do. And this is what my whole point of bringing it up is, I do think that this Star Wars project may happen because she needs it to happen. In a way, Bob Iger kind of needs it to happen. And but my next question then is to go back to the original part here that I was kind of trying to ask you guys before, is do you think this is going to be the Rey movies, or do you think this is going to be something different? Do you think those movies are dead? What is going on here? I mean, this is supposed to be the Skywalker saga, and we got two conflicting rumors here, basically.
I think the Rey movie is dead, and I feel like whether this does or does not happen, I do believe this is going to be a separate thing.
I think it's separate too. I think that it's just a standalone trilogy. You know, if any of these people had any brains, which they don't, they do like 300 years in the future. No Skywalkers, no nothing, just a new story. You know, Jedi Force.
Kinberg is smart enough to maybe do that, Price. I'm not going to put that past
just to
him.
try to turn a new page and do something different. I don't know that this guy has what it takes to do something that'll really, you know, bring the crowd in. But if he can make it less offensively bad than all the other garbage that they've made, maybe like it would be seen as a win. But honestly, I think all of this is pathetic. I think this guy's pathetic. Sorry, even if he's polite and pathetic, he's still pathetic. And and I think that Bob Iger, you know, what's wrong with this guy? I mean, how stupid can he be? Just tell her to fucking go. It just doesn't make sense for me anymore. I mean, people always joke that she has like something on him, and you know what? Over the years, I tend to think maybe she does. Like, I don't have any other explanation anymore why you keep a person that makes all the wrong decisions, loses tons of money. Nobody wants to work with her. I mean, why can't you? What kind of CEO is this?
Well, do you really want to be here? Here's a thing that I've heard many other people in other parts of the industry say. Do you really want to be the first person to fire the first female president of a studio?
Yes, I want to be that person. If I did, if I quantum leaped into Bob Iger now, I would go out. I would call like a press conference. I would ask all of those kind of CNNs and MSNBC and all those guys to all like I'd gather them all together like in this big press room, and I'd come out and I say, Kathleen Kennedy has failed. She's the worst studio head ever. She's lost billions of dollars. I am firing her. Security is removing her from the building. Here's some cardboard boxes, Kathy. We'll see you later. And I film it all, and I do this like giant spectacle. That's if like I quantum leap into Iger.
Kennedy, you are maybe the first female president of Lucasfilm, and you'll be the first female president of Lucasfilm to get fired. Goodbye.
I wish. Why can't I quantum leap into Bob Iger? That's all I want to do.
Go to New Mexico, spin up the accelerator, and see if that happens.
I think, honestly, even if they can just get rid of her, I hate to say this, but I think things like the South Park episode has helped her case. And people like Bob Iger and other people inside the industry live in such a tight bubble that they do believe a lot of the rhetoric that they throw out there. And we've seen it in the last few days from some of these people that are just not people that live in the Hollywood bubble, but outside of the Hollywood bubble, but live in their own lefty bubble, right? And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but we've seen the meltdown videos.
Oh, yeah.
And the point I'm getting at is the shit that they say, but the point is the shit that they say is they don't even see how racist and misogynist they're being themselves, right? And in that's my point is I don't think people like Bob Iger see things the way that we see them. He thinks that Kathleen Kennedy, for the most part, is doing a good job, probably. At least she's trying to, and she's doing what the mandate is, and that is do the woke shit, right? The only time he took her out of the equation, which he still could, she got brought back in, sadly, by fucking the other Bob, JPEG, you know, and it was like, what the fuck are you doing? But whatever. Either way, point being, she was set up for failure, but I think things like the South Park show, the stuff that they run with when people complain about any of this stuff, they believe that they're under persecution and they're going to break through the ceiling eventually and they'll get all these new people from somewhere. And I agree with you, until Kathleen Kennedy's out of there, till Dave Filoni's out of there, till most of the people that are part of Lucasfilm now are out of there, and
Pablo
Disney,
Hidalgo.
for that matter. Well, yeah, he's the worst. And honestly, I think Pablo is going to be the sacrificial lamb for Gina Carano. I have a very good feeling about that.
I think
because
so too.
Somebody is going to go down, and it ain't going to be Kathy.
Right. I think Pablo
Kathy is
Hidalgo.
going to have that excuse that she was off in La La Land, dealing with blood and bones, because she'll actually have an alibi, and being basically a satellite parent when Pablo is feeding her all this bullshit. And she'll have said, the only thing I did was made a decision on Pablo's recommendation. What Pablo was telling me.
Yeah.
And he'll be the one to take the axe for it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Because there's actually more to this story. And it's funny you mentioned this stuff because, honestly, after this story that came out from Forbes today, and I don't even know if I'll be able to bring the whole thing up because I brought it up a couple times already. And you know how they are. You got to pay for their shit. We found out now how much The Last Jedi actually cost. And it's a hell of a lot more than we thought. Because remember, Last Jedi was supposed to be the one that went without a hitch.
Well, production-wise, yes. Financially, I don't
Production-wise?
know about that.
That's the thing we're finding out now. Exactly. And that may be why it went without a hitch, because $410 million fucking dollars. You know what? I don't even know if this movie was profitable.
That makes it cheaper than both of JJ's separate films individually.
It
Cheaper than
does,
Force
but
Awakens and Rise of Skywalker.
they fed it out like it was 200 million, like half this.
Wow.
And I don't think this counts advertising. I think this is the actual production budget. So this is from Caroline Reed.
How can they keep lying? I mean, they never tell the truth about their budgets.
Well, here's the thing. There's the budget of what they spend versus the budget of money that they have access to, and that goes back to pre-sale. So if they pre-sold this movie to theaters for $205 million, and then they spent $205 million to make it, that's a combined budget of $410, but Disney only spent $205.
Right. And then when they only get to keep roughly,
and then they keep whatever's left over from the theaters,
And and that's the thing. So does that add up to enough to be? This really kicks the nuts of anybody trying to say that Star Wars has been profitable to this point.
Oh yeah.
Because anyway, so this is from Caroline Reed, who actually is a good friend of the guys over at WDW Pro and that Park Place and Valiant Renegade and stuff like that. Senior contributor over at Forbes. So shout out. Disney has revealed the total cost of its 2017 blockbuster, in quotation, Star Wars The Last Jedi. It exceeded the budgeted expenditure as a result of a surge in spending during post-production. This disturbance in the force contributed to the net spending of the sci-fi ultimately ballooning to $339.7 million, which was staggering 69.9% higher than trade titles had estimated. Yeah, exactly. Actually, a little bit more than that then, because I was going to say they were actually reporting it was under 200 million. But I'm sitting here going, okay, you spent all this money after in post-production and you never once considered maybe swapping out the death of Luke for Leia just so you could work with that in the next one. But hey, that's just me. That's just me.
That's just any rational filmmaker.
Yeah, because the kid, you know what? And this is the sad part about the whole fucking thing is as the movie is now, you can still cut her out of the rest of the movie, and her death at the beginning actually would probably be more impactful. Because it's her own son that does it. So he literally just killed both of his own parents. And then when you have fucking what's his ass, the crusty dude telling him he ain't ready, and it's like, motherfucker, go like, bitch, I just killed both my parents. I killed all my fucking attachments to my past. I am fucking readier than you are. That's the moment he makes this sudden turn to the ultimate dark side. And you could have had this really badass bad guy, but no, he got a case of the fucking like fuck boys with Rey and fucked all that up. So yeah, like, let's be real here. This movie was a disaster from the start. It's what's destroyed the Star Wars franchise going forward, and it's never looked back. Anyway, the movie had everything going for it, and it was ruined, and it ruined Star Wars stalwarts, and this is true, Mark Hamill and the late Carrie Fisher, with relative newcomers Daisy Ridley, John Boyega, and Adam Driver. Star Wars hype was on high following the success 2 years earlier of The Force Awakens, which grossed $2.1 billion. According to the industry analyst Box Office Mojo. The Last Jedi made the most of this, and as it picked up the story from The Force Awakens, and although it didn't make as much at the box office, it still grossed $1.3344 billion. And this is where I said, it didn't really make any money. Because once you add on at least probably 200 million in advertising, and that's being generous.
So you're looking at $600 million expenditures totally, plus your distribution costs and fees. Yeah, they probably broke even and made a little bit of money off of that.
Barely.
Not much, but maybe a little.
Because in most cases, a movie like that, you're looking to have to break the $1 billion mark and then some. The amount of theaters that pay to studio, the amount that the theaters pay to studios is known in the trades as a rental fee, and an indication of the typical level comes from film industry consultant Stephen Follows, who interviewed 1,235 film professionals in 2014 and concluded that according to the studios, theaters keep 49% of the takings on average. So yeah, that's what we were just talking about. So we're basically going along right with this article here. Anyway, research lends weight to the widely established 50-50 split, which would give Disney about $667.2 $2 million from The Last Jedi. This is roughly in line with the $610.3 million rental fee estimate from Deadline, though the trade title was much further off the mark with its claim that the movie net produced cost come to $200 million. And this is where I was just saying, script, I don't think they were profitable.
Yeah. Well, if they're profitable, they made like $10 million.
Yeah, if that. If anything, they made some money off the toys because people were stupid enough to buy them before the movie came out. The cost of making movies in the United States, well, they made the money from the licensing fees anyway. The cost of making movies in the United States is usually a closely guarded secret, as studios tend to combine their spending on individual pictures in their overall expenses and don't itemize the budgets of each one. However, as we often reported, the productions filmed in the United Kingdom are exceptions to this, and The Last Jedi was one of them. It was shot at Pinewood Studios and Longcross Studios outside London, as well as other locations, such as the former World War II Royal Air Force Base, I can't talk tonight, which doubled as the Resistance headquarters at the planet Dakar, where the first sequence of The Last Jedi takes place. Shooting in the UK shines a spotlight on its spending. Studios filming in the UK benefit from its audiovisual expenditure credit, which gives them cash reimbursement of up to 25.5% of the money they spend in the country. To qualify for the reimbursement, the movies must pass points test based on factors such as how many members of the production team are from the UK and how much the post-production work is done in the UK. Furthermore, at least 10% of the core costs of the production need to relate to activities in the UK in order to demonstrate the government, blah, 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 blah. That's just how they do all the tax stuff. It just goes on about that business. More about The Last Jedi. Production companies, about how they have to file for annual income. So yeah, I think we got the basis of this. So frankly, I don't know. This does not look good for anybody trying to argue that Star Wars has been profitable at all to this point, outside of whatever money they made on Force Awakens. I argue to say that I don't think they've really been profitable at all at this point.
Well, I mean, this is just the cursory, like, this is really just scraping the iceberg, and I'll explain why. So, again, Disney made over $2 billion on Star Wars: The Force Awakens. When they go to the film markets to say, hey, we just had this $2 billion movie hit your market, so you made a lot of money off that. If you want the sequel and the one following up that, this is the cost. And Disney has been known to sell massively high distribution sales prior to filming. So theoretically, I'll give you this scenario. I'm Ryan Johnson. I pre-sold my Last Jedi film for $205 million. If I do production of that and it cost me $205 million, how much money did I actually spend? Answer, zero, because the pre-sales paid for it. Now, Disney spends another $205 million on it. That means that the money itself, it was expensed for $410 million, but Disney is only at a loss of 205, right? Are you following this? Because this is how they do it. They do some of the math in production. It's very confusing. So the question you have to ask yourself is, can you find out what the pre-sales are for the Star Wars films that Disney made? And when you factor that against what Disney has reportedly spent, you have to then whatever's left over is what they actually spent out of their own pocket. And then once you factor in the tax credits on top of that, that's what they also have to subtract from what they spent out of their own pocket as well. And this is how movie finance works. So there's what's reported with regards to money exchanged, and then there's also what came out of Disney's bank accounts, what came out of Disney's lines of credit, what came out of Disney's loans. And that's a very different thing. And the reason why Disney hasn't collapsed right now is because they probably have not actually expensed as much as what the trades are reporting.
Okay, I'm just looking up a version of the story with Kinberg from before, that just come out on Variety. Because I'm trying to see if they actually have some confirmation here, because it looks like they have more info. Okay. Because they don't even say where they get the info from.
No source on Kinberg's
yeah, I wonder
feelings?
if this is an official finally. Hang on.
So really, then this is just an unsubstantiated rumor with regards to generating buzz. Hey, if we say we have Simon Kinberg who's going to be making a Star Wars movie, will that get people excited to go see a Star Wars movie? Well, the trades are now pushing the story out there to try and gauge audience reaction.
Yeah. Okay. So this says X-Men alum. Blah blah blah. Lucasfilm is developing a new trilogy with Kinberg set to write and produce the 3 films with studio chief Kathy Kennedy. This will begin a new series with new characters after Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, starring Daisy Ridley. Blah 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 blah. Concluded. And though the plot details haven't been revealed, Lucasfilm has disputed the notion first suggested by Deadline. Okay, so Lucasfilm has disputed the notion first suggested by Deadline that their initial report of the forthcoming trilogy that Kinberg's movies will continue the story that George Lucas began in 77's New Hope, introduced blah 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 blah. Disney currently has Jon Favreau's so what is it going to be instead? So it's going to be completely new characters. So they're saying that this is separate from the Daisy Ridley movie, is what I'm gathering here.
So that's what they've been hearing. Okay.
So this comes, according to them, directly from Lucasfilm. That's what I'm reading it here, because then from here on out, they just go on about Kinberg. So, yeah, and all the other.
If he's given his own little playground in Star Wars to play with, and he's doing
okay. Now it says, hang on, it doesn't say which source. It just says sources stress that Kinberg's trilogy remains in early development. So they just got different sources on this. But I don't know when Lucasfilm denied that, unless that's what they got out of that. And I mean, they're kind of positing that he's also still attached to that Star Trek thing, and of course the Running Man and shit like that.
Isn't also Noah Hawley still attached to the Star Trek thing too? Like, didn't he get a chance to write something for them?
He did.
Like, there's been a lot of people.
He's done with that because he moved on to Alien, from what I remember, and I think he addressed that in that one interview. If I'm not mistaken. Because this is a movie. That was a show, or maybe that was a movie too. You could be right.
No, Hawley's was the movie. The other one from the writer from Star Trek Discovery, that was going to be a movie, a TV movie.
Right, and then I didn't heard anything else about it. My source was right about the Georgiou movie, the Section 31 movie, but I haven't heard anything else about this. So
none of these movies ever get made. None of these movies ever get made. What happened to the Benioff and whatever?
Oh, that's been dead.
No,
they actually addressed that too. Yeah.
Patty Jenkins' project is dead. Benioff and Weiss' project is dead. Ryan Johnson.
Actually, technically, Ryan Johnson and Patty Jenkins' projects are still technically
tomorrow morning. They're going to start
development.
They're starting to film tomorrow. Both of those projects. And what else? You have Donald Glover and his crappy Lando thing. I mean, I don't even know.
I think has already been said that. I think he confirmed that's not going to happen.
Who even made, I mean, Donald Glover was okay in Community, and then somebody told him that he was like a rapper, and other people believed it. And then suddenly people said that like he was great as Lando, and he believed that too. I don't know who's talking to this dude and why people are even paying attention to him. I thought that like the height of his career was like a part of an ensemble cast on Community. And that Atlanta show, I don't know, maybe I'm not the target audience. I tried to watch that a few times and I don't know. I guess it's not for me. So can't really think of anything good this guy does. He's really overrated. Sorry, I don't know how we got to talking about him.
Well, he's producing would be producing the Lando Calrissian film.
Right. Why would he be doing it? Like, who made him? They're like, oh, he's like a jack of all trades. No, he's a shitty musician and he's like a mediocre actor. That's not a jack of all trades. He's not a Renaissance man. He's kind of lucky that he was in an ensemble show that was pretty decently written with a lot of other great actors. One of the actors he actually got rid of. He got rid of Chevy Chase. They got rid of him because he said he was offended because Chevy Chase hurt his feelings with some off the cuff comment. So
I was going to say that, but I wasn't sure how.
Chevy Chase actually also quit. Like that's another thing. Like he was
they pushed him out somehow. They made it all about Donald Glover being offended over a stupid thing, and then and not to really go down this rabbit hole. He was so offended, Donald Glover, but then like after Kanye West said like the craziest shit in the world, he like befriends him and song with him and whatever, which it's fine if he wants to do that, but don't fucking go and like cancel Chevy Chase and pretend your feelings are hurt because he said something that like you thought wasn't funny or something like that, and it offended you personally.
You've got your wires mixed, man, because I know that story very well, and Chevy Chase quit, and it had nothing to do with Donnie Glover offending
I mean,
him.
you know what? Go read articles with Donnie Glover, and my wires are not crossed. He time and time again says that Chevy Chase, said something about his skin color that offended him, and any place that will let Donald Glover share that stupid story of him sobbing, he'll do it. But then Kanye West said crazy shit. He immediately goes and records music, and he's buddy with him. So it's like,
I'm not saying that Donnie Glover didn't say those things to the trades. I'm just saying that's not the reason why Chevy.
Whatever happened, listen, Chevy Chase never loved being on that show. He didn't love being a part of an ensemble. He's a grumpy guy, anyways.
He didn't get any of the jokes either.
Okay, right, so here's what supposedly happened. Donald Glover suggested that he used the N-word, and that he said that Chase said to him, "People think you're funnier because you're black."
Yeah,
that sounds like shit Chevy would say.
You know what? That sounds like a very Chevy Chase thing to say.
Chevy Chase is a funny kind of colorful character, and if you're on a set with him, even if he's grumpy and he's an asshole, I think that going and weeping to the newspapers is too much. And again, if you do that, then you have to like be consistent. If like later people say a bunch of crazy things about other groups and then you befriend them and it's all great, you're not in a position to continue to whine about that stupid story that Chevy Chase said something that offended you.
I will say this: there's no context as far as how the N-word was used, but
there's no context. He's a whiny little shit. I never liked him, and I think that even his rapper name, Childish Gambino, is also stupid.
I almost feel like you know him personally.
And then he started in stand-up, and then NBC hired him as a staff writer for a few of their shows. Then he got onto 30 Rock as a staff writer, and then after that, he managed to make himself also cross into acting. And Community was his big break on that. But he's been I've seen his stand-up back in the day where he wasn't a little bitch, and he was actually pretty decent. I understood how he got to NBC. But when you see everything that came after Community, you're like, oh, this guy just kind of like burned himself out, and he's not doing anything fun or creative anymore. He's just kind of like being dragged along through his.
I have to also say, Tom, there are people that I've met. This guy, I actually have never met him, and I don't have any interaction with him. I
was just giving you shit.
No. Sometimes there could be a person that I have met, but I actually have not met him, and I have not worked. I don't have any connection with him. It's just that I've always felt that there's like this hype. I never like it when they take like Hollywood somebody and they make like a big hype around him, and everybody has to keep saying how that person is so great. Now, maybe I'm being a little too, personal against this Donald Glover guy, but I'm just saying like the way the media kept kissing this guy's ass, and at the end, it's like, for what? I just don't think it's justified. But
for what it's worth,
personal opinion.
I'm like basically on neutral ground with this because I've never seen Community. And I don't really have a fuck to give for Donald Glover one way or the other. And I don't really have a reason to hate him. But I see where you're coming from. Because, I've heard of him. And that's just about it. Like, I've never, outside of the Lando movie, I've not really, wasn't he in like one of the Spider-Man things? Otherwise, I can't remember him from anything else.
People are saying that his father is Danny Glover. His father is not Danny Glover.
Danny Glover is not.
Danny Glover is not Donald Glover's father. Danny Glover.
No, there's no relation. Yeah.
Danny Glover was good in those Lethal Weapon movies, and I consider him a decent, more than decent actor. I think that Danny Glover is actually a good actor, whereas Donald Glover, I don't consider him much of anything. He's just kind of there.
He's got a note that worked well for Community, but it hasn't translated anywhere else, and that's the big problem.
A note amongst a bunch of other talented people and a good writing team, he somehow managed to find his place there. But script, I think even you would find
Chevy Chase, though.
Even you would find your place there if you had such a talented, cast and crew.
A lot of people would. You've got that support, man. I mean, they made Chevy Chase like entertaining Community. Like, that's a miracle.
Well, I was just gonna say on that note, like, look, I know enough about Chevy Chase to know, would I hire him? Yes, because he's Chevy Chase. But I also know what I'm getting the fuck into. He's Chevy Chase. Yeah. And Chevy Chase is well known as a big pain in the ass, asshole, jerk, self-centered prick, egotistical maniac. So on that,
Bigger
you
than Bill
just got to
Murray.
be prepared for that.
Yeah.
But at
bigger
least,
than Bill
even though
Murray,
he's a
yes.
jerk, at least he's Chevy Chase. There is something that he does that's unique, even though you have to suffer, maybe on set
The
with
difference
him.
is, my point I'm getting to is that modern Hollywood kids, modern actors and shit, they can't handle that shit. They don't know how to deal with somebody like that. Look, do I condone that type of behavior? No. But my
No,
point
I
is,
don't
when you
either.
sign up for Chevy Chase, you're getting Chevy Chase.
Right.
Okay? You get the benefits and the negatives. Right? It's kind of like, I imagine what it was like back in the days. Like, we can get John Belushi. That's great, but we'll have John Belushi.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because
you got to deal with that. The other part too is Chevy Chase literally burned his career to the ground in the late 90s and early 2000s.
The Chevy Chase show.
Well, not just that. He did all his personal relationships dirty. His ego and his other shit that I just mentioned got in the way of everything else. And it got to a point where studios just he wasn't worth the money and the problems that you have to deal with to have a Chevy Chase picture. There wasn't enough people out. Listen to me. I sound like an old fucker saying picture.
He was great.
There just wasn't enough people.
You admit that he was great in Fletch.
He just wasn't worth enough at that point for people to put up with his shit. That's basically what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
He ain't Bill Murray.
He ain't Bill Murray. He wasn't able to reinvent himself. The closest he got was Community. And how that went down, I don't know, because I have never watched the show.
Is that the show where they were trying to give him a second chance?
Yes. Here's the other part too. So Dan Harmon would play angry voicemails that Chevy Chase left him when he would go to this comedy club that was also a game shop in LA. And he would just Dan Harmon would just do like stories about, writing and everything else there, and a little bit of stand up. And every time Chevy Chase would be upset because he either didn't get a joke that was on the show or just didn't like what Dan Harmon was doing with his character, he would leave him an angry voicemail, and Dan Harmon would play that to this crowd. And one of those voicemails, someone in the audience recorded it and shared it publicly on social media, and that blew up everything. Chevy Chase got so upset that he basically said, "I'm quitting the show, and unless Dan Harmon is fired." And basically NBC said, "Yeah, we'd rather keep Dan Harmon than you."
Yeah. Well, that doesn't surprise me. That's the second time Universal said fuck Chevy Chase.
Yeah. And then unfortunately, about a year or so later, Dan Harmon gets canceled temporarily because of some sort of Me Too thing.
Yeah, I remember that. And he took advantage of it, I think, a little bit in the press, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Chevy did.
But it basically there's so much the overlap happened really quickly between Chevy Chase essentially quitting, Me Too happening, and Dan Harmon leaving, that by the time everybody kind of figured out what was happening on, they'd already written off Chevy Chase's character. Dan Harmon had already been booted from the show. And then they got in Mike from Breaking Bad to come in and replace Chevy Chase for the following season.
Right. But the bottom line that I was saying is, regardless of anything that happened, any article that you see that Donald Glover is interviewed, his version of the story is, I was minding my own business when Chevy Chase started saying racial epitaphs at me. And it's implied that that's why he's not there anymore. At least in some of these articles.
That's what he's implying. Yeah.
Do you get what I'm
sure
saying?
Danny likes to believe that in his own mind. Yeah. Or Donnie.
Right. I mean, Donnie wants to push this narrative. So it could be that he's pushing a false narrative. But if he's going to go and pretend he's like, holier than the Pope, then at least, don't go around and then embracing people that say things that are much worse than what Chevy Chase supposedly said. I don't like the hypocrisy and the thing in the press and
Chevy
all that
Chase
stuff.
doesn't work well with other comedians anyway. See, that's the other thing people need to understand.
Sure,
he does not play.
Can't stand him, and she's
he cannot play with others when it comes.
I'm sure he's an asshole and nobody likes him, but I don't think that he did anything special for Donald Glover. I think he treated Donald Glover like he treats everybody like shit.
I'm not even. Here's the thing, Price, is I'm not even saying this as a negative. It's just I know how Chevy Chase works.
All I'm saying is I don't think there was discrimination. Yeah. He's a jerk to everybody, like you just said.
Yeah, he's just a jerk to everybody. Yeah.
Right, and Donald Glover wanted to make it seem like he was a jerk to him because he was black. And that's the part that annoys me. Do you understand?
No, if anything, he might have been a little jealous. That I would believe. That's probably why he said the only reason people laugh at you more is because you're black. Because I could see Chevy saying that.
I don't think that that's a reason to go whine to the press every minute.
No, I don't either, but...
Sometimes you got to kind of man up. That to me,
it's like, so you're telling me Chevy Chase is an asshole? Okay, so it's another day that ends in Y.
No, but then for a
Right,
long
like
time,
that's-
for a long time in the press, they kept on anytime because of Donald Glover. Anytime you mention Chevy Chase, they don't
Right.
say, "Oh, he's difficult. He's notoriously kind of a jerk." They say, "Oh, he said racial epithets." I've seen many articles that call
Oh,
back
I
to that
brought
stupid
it up.
thing.
It didn't take me long to find it. I'm not saying I'm
Meaning
with
he
you on
changed
this,
the
so.
narrative surrounding Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase, maybe he's an asshole, but he's still an icon, and he still has things on his belt that Donald Glover can dream of only having. And I think that the fact that he sat there and made some off the cuff comment isn't a reason to go and release the press, release the hounds on the guy and cancel him at his old age. I don't think that Chevy
Yeah.
Chase
Well,
deserved it, even if he's a jerk.
That we've really gotten off the beaten path.
Yeah,
now,
I
so-
definitely think Donald Glover wishes he had a movie like Nothing But Trouble under his
Oh,
belt.
absolutely. I'm sure. Yeah.
But
But on that note, let's see what the
as much
audience
of a
is
bomb
talking
that
about.
is, that it would be a big boon for actually a guy like Danny.
Tripping Orc sends in 22-month member chat. Thank you for that, Tripping Orc. That's almost 2 years. They must finally be making episodes 7 and 9 because they only made 6 Star Wars movies. Oh. I mean, honestly, if these are in some other place, I mean, Kinberg could possibly accidentally make something semi-decent, but I doubt it. The Seaman is in the house. How you doing, Seaman? Sends in 5. It says the Star Wars trilogy announcement a week before Disney earnings call. You don't say. Oh, that's right. I didn't even think of that angle. Thanks for bringing that to my attention, and thank you for the 5. Dear sends in 5 and says the amount of canceled Star Wars projects is going to equal the number of EU novels before KK. Yeah.
We're at like 15,
Well, like I said,
aren't we?
she's fired more directors than she has hired them. Yeah, I think they're getting on that in the teens by now.
Because they've
almost.
got it was 3 trilogies. There's a Taika trilogy, a Ryan Johnson trilogy, now this new one. There's the Ray movie, the Benioff and Weiss set of films. So yeah, we're in the mid early double digits at least right now. That's crazy.
Yep. And then we got Beep Bop Boop in the house. How you doing, Beep Bop Boop? Sending in £1.99. And if you haven't pound that like button yet, please do. I really want Elon to buy Lucasfilm and Marvel. I don't think it'll happen, but would it be nice? First of all, Bob would never sell them. Disney would never sell them.
Yeah.
That you'd have to offer more money than it'd ever be worth in a million billion years.
Besides, Elon's going to be busy with his Department of Government Efficiency for the next 4 years. So,
yeah. Well, and the rumor going around, or not so much a rumor, I guess it's almost confirmed now that Bob didn't contribute to either party this time out.
like personally or by proxy of Disney?
Personally, proxy, we don't know. Disney, I don't think did either, though. I mean, as far as a proxy through another entity, we don't know. Although I have a hard time believing that, considering how pro Kamala ABC/Disney was this whole time.
Yeah.
And they were literally and I watched, because I watched till everyone fell. They were the last ones to finally accept defeat.
Yeah, because even the Associated Press finally caved in before ABC.
About 15, 20 minutes, then finally ABC caved in. Yep. Because, yeah, it took everybody else. Like, finally, AP was holding out, NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, MSNBC. They were all holding out hope. But, yeah, no. Anyway, I don't want to get too political on this. That wasn't the point. But, yeah. Interesting, though. Turn of events on that part. But, yeah, thanks for the support, guys. And with that, did you guys have anything else to talk about? Because I was so busy today, I didn't catch up on any stories. I didn't know if there was anything besides that going on today.
I think the world is still in reaction mode over watching Meltdown City.
Right.
Which, I'm gonna be honest with you. There are ones that are good and fun and funny, but maybe I had sky high expectations, but I didn't feel like, and maybe they just haven't come across my way. But I feel like I have not seen as many as I was expecting. Am I the only one who feels that way?
No.
I'm thinking about how much I'm expecting.
No, you know what? But the Jimmy Kimmel one is that's gold. You know.
Yeah.
Unintentional comedy gold. That one is great.
Well, I mean, if you want to talk about it from an entertainment angle, I mean, between the media
from an
and
entertainment
everybody,
angle.
in that respect, I think they're just kind of in both denial and shock at the same time. And what I mean by that is you have the video that Andre dropped earlier is a good place to kind of leap off of. You have like places that they're coddling their fucking employees yesterday. And it's like, where else in the world would you see that shit? Basically, like, I don't know if you guys caught the video or not, but at this one agency, they gave their employees donuts for breakfast and pizza, and they had a big announcement and an email that went out and all this other shit. And the time to try, let me get the thing here because the quote is fucking hilarious. Let me grab it. But anyway, I don't know if you guys heard about this. So yeah, so like the cope is real. I mean, the ones that scare me are the ones who are actually kind of calling for some sort of violence. But the other ones I find utterly hilarious and sad at the same time, because basically you got people who are trying to comprehend all this, and they don't see how racist and bigoted they're coming off by saying some of the shit they're saying, and they just can't fathom how women can do this. And it's like, well, maybe a lot of women don't agree with you about killing babies and shit. So, anyway, that being said, let me see here. Where does it start? This is a long address. So this came in for the people at I can't remember the agency. Andre says it in the video. But this email went out, and it says, today our challenge is to be there for each other, support those among us who feel particularly vulnerable. So be an ally. As we always do our best for our family and friends and clients, he said, adding, let's give comfort and support where it's needed and continue to aspire for a country that can include more support and solve the struggles for all of Americans. Truly living in a bubble. Okay, it was from Verve. Thank you.
Oh, Verve. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I know that agency. They're troubling.
However, elections are stressful. However you feel today is okay. Keep doing your best. And remember, we are creatives, they wrote. Whether we are agents, aspiring writers, budding producers, or hopeful development. Let me make this bigger. Sorry, guys. Executives, we share passion and belief in storytelling to pursue a creative life demands optimism in the future. Creativity is steady march towards understanding the world around us. And without belief in what's to come, there's nowhere to march. And then this was the doozy of it all. Is this the... Okay. No, there's another part of it. Where am I looking for? Let me see if I can just bring up this story here. Hang on, guys. I'm so unprepared for this one. But I am prepared at the same time. I know. Let me just get the actual story here. That might help. If I was a bit more actually prepared. But clearly, by your guys' silence, you haven't heard this story yet. So
no, are you like sharing your screen or supposed to be? Or
no, I'm looking for the actual story right now.
Okay.
Because it's like buried in the thing now. Because I'm sure they got mocked for it endlessly. And my computer's just being slow. Because I need it to do something right now. So, All right. So let me see here. Sorry about this, guys.
You're good. It's good.
All right. Found it. Bring it up now on screen. Get rid of the ads. All right. No, you fuck. So let's read this in actual order here.
A rooftop Korean.
What do you say?
There wasn't a denial there either.
I am cleaning off my Brazers tab first. Give me a break.
Why do you have like chandelier lighting stuff on your website browsers?
I don't know. Why do I?
Okay.
Where? I wasn't looking up chandelier lighting. That's weird. Okay, so it starts from here. Last night's results are a very tough outcome for many who feel angry, scared, and disenfranchised, Zimmer wrote. This is Jeremy Zimmer, CEO of The Verve. While recognizing that a lot of others feel very different as the results reflect, discussion about understanding the other side are for another time. So that's the part I really wanted to hit on. So, yeah, they don't want to understand why the other side is in existence. They're still in denial and in their safe space. But anyway, then I pretty much read the rest of it, and it ends up with them getting pizza and donuts. So, yeah.
That's so Verve.
It's like a fucking daycare.
Yeah, you're no,
It's
you're
like
not wrong.
not even like at work. It's like, can you imagine if you worked at a construction site and be like, boss, I just can't work today. Why not, Frank? Kamala didn't win. I'm so scared for women and my gay friends and all my black and Hispanic friends. And shut the fuck up and get to work.
And don't forget to holler at the women walking by the site when you're on lunch.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You like your job, Frank? Then shut the fuck up.
Dude, no, it's been a funny 48 hours because the screenwriting discords are blowing up with all the hacks that are terrified for the future, and all the ones that, you know, get work and are, you know, moderate or slightly conservative. They're just laughing all the way to the bank because they're like, we're getting phone calls, we're making deals. I just put in the private chat a little statement that Zaslav said with regards to Trump winning. And even though it is kind of like corporate babble, the basic translation is essentially saying, with him in office and with the direction of the country going, I don't have to be as subtle as I want to be when it comes to trying to make great entertainment.
Yeah, I saw that and I sent that to Andre. I don't know if he's going to do anything with it. I'll bring it up here quick. So yeah, as I tried telling you guys from what I've known of Zaslav, he's a businessman.
Yeah.
So
like you, me, and a couple others are like the only ones that don't think Zaslav's doing a horrible job.
Are there things he's done that I don't agree with? Yes.
Yeah, but different. That's different than doing a horrible job, right? That's the problem.
No, I think so too. I think he's more of a businessman. I think that under the circumstances, there's probably more good than bad than he's done, even though he has made some stupid mistakes, especially with DC
and TCM.
Well, I mean, the stuff with DC is was basically doing a fire sale, getting that bad product out as quickly as possible. He's not as responsible for that as we'd like to think, but he has made a couple of other errors afterwards with regards to certain parties he's hired and certain slow moving actions to dismiss some players that are in there. I think, as weird as it is to say, I kind of think he needs to reallocate Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi to another part of Warner Brothers right now, because some of their influence is spilling over into the other isolated properties, and that's going to bite them in the ass later, because they're not who they were 20 years ago, those two.
Well, and I did some digging and research on DeLuca a little deeper, because I always wondered what happened, because you and I were talking about him one day, and I'm just like, what the hell did happen? Because he was like one of Bob Shea's proteges.
Yeah.
And he was responsible for a lot of good things that happened at New Line, and I could never understand why they picked, of all people, fucking what's his face, Emmerich.
Yeah.
Who was another one of Shea's proteges, but not one that.
But also got into a lot of trouble because he's been sued for theft and everything.
Yeah. So he fits right in with the corporate culture, you know.
Exactly.
But anyway, it just turns out that Bob didn't think he was ready, and him and Michael got into it, I guess, over certain things like that. And because this was over the taking over New Line at the time. And but I still thought he was the one who should have done it. And I think if he had gotten a chance at the time, he probably would have taken a lot more chances and probably been a bit better influence than he may be now, because I don't know much about him now personally. I do agree with you. I feel like him and Pam Abdi are being stretched a bit, and their influence is being pushed in so many different directions, and they need to just concentrate on certain things. Because, I mean, the one thing I will agree with, like Price, you said you're worried about DC. Look, I am too, but on paper, like, it makes sense to me what Zaslav did here. And he gave James pretty much carte blanche, right, to do whatever he wants. And with that comes whatever comes with it. So it's on Gunn to either perform or not perform, but I don't blame Zaslav for picking him, because he's like one of the only choices you had, and probably one of the better choices to take that over. And DC needed some direction.
Yeah, they weren't going to get it with Dwayne Johnson, that's for sure.
No, fuck no. And I don't even know why Dwayne Johnson thought that was a good idea for himself.
Well, he was looking at it on the monetary side of things. Like, he'd be able to sustain himself for at least a decade if he was like co-owner of DC's film rights.
Yeah, but I don't trust him creatively for shit.
No, nor should you. I mean, he's doing a Santa Claus movie that looks like it's gonna, do well for its opening weekend, but be completely forgettable by like the time the season's over.
Yeah. There was another story that kind of went along with all this shit. Let me see if I can find it here. Here we
There's
go.
always that one.
If we can read it all, it's a Vanity Fair one, so we'll see. Oh, it says this one's on us, so it might actually. I don't even know if I have to read the whole thing. But, so I really want to get your guys' reaction to this. I kind of hope they do. Because that's just more content for us. Oh, come on.
Does Hollywood have the energy to resist
Trump again?
Well,
you guys can know where this article's going.
Fun fact: a lot of the ones that would be resisting him aren't working right now, so they don't have the money to even participate.
So here we go. Vanity Fair starts it out with doom and gloom.
Oh,
The unthinkable has happened again. Which I suppose makes it not all that unthinkable. The hopeful, the fearful slogan of the Kamala Harris campaign, "We are not going back," was wholly wrong. Like the lone survivor of a horror movie who assumes they are safe, only to be caught by a killer right before the end credits. We now find ourselves helplessly, receding to a version of the country we escaped for years ago. The question now is, will it feel the same as it did the last time? What will the national temperament be for the next 4 years?
The national temperament? Better.
Yeah.
California's Hollywood whack jobs that have been hurting the industry for the last 15 years, they'll implode. That'll be fun.
Yeah. To predict the coming mood, it may be helpful to look at the film and television produced during the last terrible epoch, when a stunned half of the nation, a large handful of them working in entertainment, attempted to process the strange new world they'd suddenly found themselves in. Okay, that's like the only true thing they probably have said here. But yeah, half the nation. That's right, half of the people. And yeah, you're right. Most of y'all work in the fucking industry. And I that actually believe this shit. As far as the rest of the country, I don't even know if it's really half. Even then. And now I definitely would say it's less, way less than half.
At least 66%.
At least. Anyway, that being said, we'll give them credit for what credit is due. But they're still oblivious to that fact. Anyway, though there were only 4 years in Hollywood could react to their immediate times, often that process takes longer, more often than not. Then we turned to things that were in production before Trump's first election and divined. This is so small. Sorry, guys. Hang on. Fucking women's magazine bullshit. Yeah, I got a misogyny in there. Anyway, though there were only 4 years in Hollywood, blah, 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 we read that already. For Trump's election, the divined from them something defiant. An Obama-era triumphalism. Is that a word? Triumphalism? Repurposed as a resistance. Movies like 2018's Black Panther and 2017's The Post, and TV shows like 2017's The Handmaid's Tale all felt more pertinent than they may have had Hillary Clinton won in 2016, and yet they were not specifically aimed at Trumpism. The fact that they keep going back to Handmaid's Tale and trying to tie that into like something, that is just redonkulous bullshit.
Yeah, in the Handmaid's Tale, the government forced the stuff on women. Right now, it seems like these crazies are just going celibate themselves.
Well, I was just saying, it's not like Trump did any of that shit during. They just keep running. Yeah, it's just anyway. Mike White's
way more other things to do than that.
Yeah, the White Lotus, by contrast, was developed during the dwindling final months of Trump's first term, and is certainly in conversation with the presiding sense that the rich were crushing everyone else underfoot. But like 2017's Get Out, the first season of the White Lotus is more concerned with the predations and exploitations of folks who might largely call themselves liberal. Neither work is in vain. Is that a word? What the fuck does that mean?
In vain? No, yeah, that's a word.
What does it mean?
To be in vain?
Like in vain?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, did they put it as one word? Because I can't see your text.
Inveighing.
What? I got to try and zoom in on this because your text is really small.
Sorry, that's as big as I can
inveighing. Oh,
yeah. Against dystopic conservation, really. Inveighing. Not a word I'm familiar with, kids. Maybe Trumpism was too vast and sinister to confront all at once in such a short time, but particularly aspects of our ailing age were minded during the first Trump era, perhaps most visibly the Me Too reckonings, which gained international prominence toward the end of Trump's first year in office. Movies like Promising Young Woman, Bombshell, and The Assistant gathered the experience of many people over 4 years than Trump's in. Okay, so basically the whole point of this, which is funny because they use Adam McKay as a fucking, as an example when that motherfucker just called you all a bunch of dumb shits and you lost the election. Yeah. Yeah.
It almost feels like, much like politicians, Hollywood, they just no one is learning the right lessons from this. It doesn't mean you don't have to have like stories of how you feel allegorically.
Yeah,
to
but look,
the
the bottom
outcome.
line is,
but it feels like they have made this like their personality, their bread and butter, like they're everything. They have made this their everything. Like the statement rent free in someone's head. I don't want to say it's overused, but it's definitely become very common nowadays. But I feel like that's becoming very literally accurate. These people, like,
yeah.
do you how do you like what? Do you just pretend like everything is fine when your team wins, and then you close once again the whole, do you just close your blinders and then all of a sudden someone says open your blinders, and then because they said it, and then all of a sudden, oh man, problems magically came back. And I'm not saying, and I'm saying that someone who I know things aren't going to be perfect. Do I believe there are going to be things going to be better? Of course I do. Have we seen some proof to know that? Yeah, that's why I believe it. But nothing's ever going to be perfect, and that's literally impossible to do, no matter how many good intentions one can have, and whether it was generally their fault that they didn't follow through or other obstacles. Regardless, there's always going to be things that just kind of come up. It's just the nature of the beast. But if you're actually against problems, be against the problems, not just pretend, they exist one way and then they magically go away when your team is involved.
Yeah, and this inveighing to protest or complain in a bitter or vehement way. Yeah, that describes them pretty well, actually. Look, I'm like all for this shit, so we can sit here and watch you guys fall into abyss of fucking stupidity. Because the more crap you shovel out of Hollywood that people aren't going to want to see, the more you're going to fail. And the more we're going to just stand back and laugh at you and have more content to produce.
Well, I mean, the irony is that everything that they would pitch that would normally have been greenlit because of that type of ideology won't even make it to the development stage. So they'll be screaming essentially at clouds at this point. Like, we're not going to get, many, if any, like anti-down with Trump hate shows with that commentary. Even the sci-fi dystopia is just not going to do it if the allegory is going to be too on the nose. Which is hysterical for me, because I'm like, I know the types that would be pitching that, and yeah, 6 years ago they would have gotten their show or movie financed and produced. Now it's going to be crickets. They're like, oh yeah, really great, another commentary on the current president. I'm bored. Give me something new. Give me something fresh. Give me something exciting, because that's the thing that motivates Hollywood. Basically, seeing essentially this, a lot of people in Hollywood are going to look like, oh, it's Donald Trump the sequel. Is there anything new about it? Oh, RFK Jr.'s there. Okay, that's something. Maybe we can work with that. Like, it's gonna be a mulling over attitude towards it, as opposed to an enraged, we need to respond back in full force type of thing. I think a lot of people are gonna be very disappointed that number one, they're not going to get as much work as they expected, and number two, us on the commentary side, we'll have some beautiful gems here and there to mock, but nowhere near the frequency that we had previously. Because the people that would be pitching those aren't getting the jobs anymore.
Even so, and I believe you're right on everything you said, Script. I'm going to obviously approach it from the other angle, because obviously you're looking at it from the Hollywood business aspect, which is great. I'm looking at it from the, I guess you could say, the political angle. There's no point to doing this stuff now, because you know why? He literally will be gone in 4 years.
That's right.
No matter what. No matter what. I'm not saying that because he says so. He literally has already known that he's setting people up for people past his time. And the opposition could try to reclaim that, whether for 4 years or 8 years. It can happen again. It's not going to be the last one. And I promise you can clip me on it right now. What happened a few nights ago was not the last election. It will happen again in 4 years. I'll bet $100 on it with anyone, unless the planet blows up. We're going to be here in 4 years, and there will be another election. Bet.
Yeah. And guess what? The crazies out there, they don't despise the vice president as much as they do Trump. And if he ends up becoming the possible next nominee, you're not going to have that blowback that we saw in 2015 and 16, because there's not enough fuel there to actually be a flame. Now, what we will be seeing a lot of on the social media of these people, some actors, many writers, some directors, complaining ad nauseum about, the president-elect in office and how he's hurting their industry and whatnot. But it's all hyperbole, because it's not him hurting the industry. It's their reputations, their lack of creativity, their lack of being profitable that's killing themselves. And they're never going to be able to see and understand that's the reason why they have so much time available for themselves on social media.
I actually think that the more hardcore bunch of the wokey wokes are more scared of Vance than they are of Trump.
Because he's younger?
Not just because he's younger, but he's actually a good politician.
He's actually a good debater.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's got barely much of a history right now, so that scares them a lot, because
he's only
he doesn't
40.
have much. He was only,
and
what,
they know he's more
years?
hardcore conservative than Trump even is.
Oh,
especially when it comes
Trump
to
is a moderate.
religion and other things. Yeah.
And JD,
See,
and
I honestly, I made this joke the other night that I think that's the only thing that's going to keep Trump alive for the next 4 years is JD Vance. And I think that's why he picked her over Tulsi Gabbard, because I'm sitting here thinking, and I thought this, I'm like, shit, if Tulsi, that's why he never picked her, because if he did, he'd be dead tomorrow. The day after he'd be in office, because they make sure that she's president, not him. But if Vance is the next option, then they're like, fuck, we're just going to have to sit this out for 4 years, and hopefully we can win against Vance in 2028 or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do believe that's one of the reasons. Between that and also get
I've
young,
seen some of these fuckers
get
talking
young
on Reddit
guys
and other
involved
places.
as well.
They are fucking insane.
Guys. He's also trying to set up a future, because that's the thing. When you look at like these legacies of Biden's and Clinton's and Obama's, they're all there just kind of keep their little circle pleased. Whereas the Don, he's like, okay, well, obviously there's going to be someone after me. Why not, set up some other people, because he knows he's not going to be the last guy. So set some others up for success. And, obviously it doesn't sound like he has so it's like, okay, here's Vance. And if Vance doesn't do it, well, he clearly knows people like Vivek. He could go a few ways with that. So it's an angle that can play out multiple ways, rather than just rely on people who've been there for 30, 40 years.
Well, here's an interesting fun fact that I only a handful of people in Hollywood actually realized. And that is, let's say hypothetically that Trump's administration does exactly what he sets out to achieve, and he manages to cut all the pork within government, within the relevant jobs, the relevant agencies, all the things that have just been sucking up a ton of money, taxpayer dollars, and going nowhere. Well, guess what that does? That leaves a lot of taxpayer dollars out there for investments in entrepreneurship. It also means that every state in the union has a chance to actually provide film credits, which means that, Hollywood will actually be able to save money by shooting locally again. And that's a big boon for industry too, because that means that, you go to Wyoming to shoot a feature film, well, you're now helping out that town or city in Wyoming financially because the state is providing you a tax credit and you're spending that money in that state, which makes it an economic boom for that period of production. And that all comes, as a lucrative measure that Hollywood could take advantage of. And considering the fact that, well, if you take a look at the recent voting map of the state of California, it's far more red than it is blue. You're going to see a shift over from the mindset of the studio heads, with exception to Disney, saying, you know what, now that there's more money to go around with regards to where we can shoot, and we don't have to go overseas to get more bang for our buck, and we can actually help stimulate the local economy, you're going to see some studios setting up productions, replicating what they've done in Atlanta throughout other states that are going to possibly explore that opportunity because they know that that's going to be good money coming into their communities.
That's why George is so popular. Joe Pat 87 says with $4.99, all this talk on Zaslav and yet nothing about juror number 2, Eastwood's supposed last movie. Well, we brought it up before. And what is perfection but a flaw? And where was that a reference to? You have to remind me.
What is perfection but a flaw? Was that from one of the articles?
Was that from the Today's article, or is that something about the Eastwood movie? You'll have to clarify on that one, Joe Pat. You don't have to send in another super chat. Just say it in the chat. Let us know. Come on. Because I don't remember where he said it in the article, but yeah. Otherwise, if you're talking about the Eastwood movie, I think it's because it's a great film, but they probably don't know how to market it. And they know they probably won't make their money back. That's probably what it means.
Maybe they could actually try to market so they can try to make money. It seems like they want to put in the most minimal amount of effort to get it out there.
Well, from what I heard, it was supposed to go straight to streaming from the original deal.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's Zaslav is the one who actually decided to put it in some theaters so it had a chance at some Oscars. So even though the narrative going around is that he supposedly was bad talking Eastwood, and that's, from what I heard, not true.
Yeah, I don't believe that. I think right now he's just doing what he can to honor the deal without causing, I guess, further headaches if he ended up doing a wide release.
He said, one of you said nothing will ever be perfect.
That would be me.
Okay, what'd you
That would be me. I just said nothing's ever going to be perfect. You could solve as many things as possible. Granted, in case people have skepticism, which I do think there'll definitely be a good amount of things genuinely fixed, but there's always be something that just comes up. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, I'm sure most of us, I wish he would have too, because I'd like to have gone and seen it, but I think that the money just wasn't there, and they knew it would lose money had they spent more money on it for advertising and all that shit, especially after all the money Joker just lost.
Well, I mean, that deal was made before Joker even hit, but yeah, I think they were just hedging.
No, but Joker came up in the earnings call or whatever is one of the things that's one of the big problems right now.
Yeah, well, it's affected future distribution deals for some of their films.
And look, as good as Zaslav is doing, I mean, no studio in Hollywood's in good shape right now. Disney's only floating on the parks and shit.
Mm-hmm. Warner Brothers is still in their state of recovery. They have another $38 billion to pay down. Paramount's in transition with Skydance. Universal is still figuring out what they're going to do. Sony's kind of okay, but that's only because they don't spend as much money on their movies that fail anyways at the box office.
Yeah, they're kind of in the middle. Paramount and Lionsgate are on the losing end right now. Comcast is on the winning side of that.
Mm-hmm.
Warner Brothers probably in there equally, only they're just not making as much because they don't have as many outlets and such. But yeah, I don't know how well HBO Max has been doing for them lately either. So
yeah, they've had some ratings declines, especially with Penguin week over week, which I'm not too surprised by, but I was hoping that wasn't going to be the case.
Then Kalekioki has a dumb question. I don't think this is a dumb question, especially if you're not somebody who's familiar with all this stuff. This counts as Trump's second term, right? Yeah, you don't get to start over or anything like that. You already
That's
got
right.
one term, so you only get another term, and that's it.
Yeah, like Grover Cleveland had 2 non-consecutive terms.
I believe that's the only president.
That's the
technically.
only other one.
That's
Yep.
the only other one. Yeah, like
Yep.
we've had a similar thing in here. We had Pierre Elliott Trudeau had had a gap between his run as well as prime minister back in the 60s and 70s. Fun fact, though, I mean, if Trump manages to get 2/3 majority, they could lift the presidential term limits if they wanted.
Shadow Chaser has a great comment. He said, "Yeah, the left only prolonged their pain. Had Biden had just properly, I'll call it properly lost, because we all know about 2020.
Mm-hmm.
That he'd be in his final days right now of his second term. That's true. Right now, we'd be at the tail end of it, and there would be no JD Vance, there'd be no RFK, no Tulsi Gabbard, no Vivek, no Elon. We don't know if there'd be Elon Musk.
They actually made their situation
Yeah,
worse.
they made it worse.
Because now there's going to be a dismantling of all the crap that's been going on. And like, again, I live in Canada, and I can look at the United States government structure and be like, you have way more crap going on there, way more bureaucracy than my country. And the fact that Trump and his team is threatening to basically cut that down to its barest minimum, I'm like, yeah, that would never have happened in Trump's initial second term, because he would have had a lot of the same people from that first term still carried over into the current one. And none of those institutions would be at threat. And now they all are. And this is, you reap what you sow.
Yeah. Sowing's for ladies. Carl Anderson says, would we be open to having Jay on about his new book? Yes. In fact, I actually asked him yesterday, but I don't know if he saw it in the private chat. Anytime he wants to hop on MEAD or the morning show, wherever, Jay is more than welcome here. He knows that. So yeah, definitely would. And yeah, he's got a new book out there right now. Check it out. It's the green one.
Chronicles Green.
Ball.
That's the one. In case people are not wondering in the chat, J for J Drunk 3PO. Achromatic Chronicles Green. It's the sequel to his Achromatic Chronicles Blue. And they are complementary stories that do connect. So good for him that he's
balls and blue balls. I wonder which
seriously he must have got to work right away on the second one as soon as he done the first one, because it wasn't that long ago that people got their copies of the second one. So good for him for keeping on it with it. Same like him and Kelly Jones and Matt Wagner with Dracula, which I still got to read my Dracula copy. But yeah, it's good times.
All right. And with that, unless there was anything else you guys wanted to chit chat about, I think we can wrap it up.
Well, I'm ready to pull out whenever you're ready. Just let me know.
Like a prom date?
Oh, dude.
Weird.
Script, what you got going on?
I got scripts on Saturdays this Saturday. Frequent co-host, similar to Price of Reason with regards to how many times he's been able to join us over there. We got Raul, a fellow filmmaker, on coming by to talk with us about this upcoming script, which is called, bear with me for a second, guys, I've been so busy I can't remember. It's called Hit Me Baby, and it's about it's a hitman hitwoman / comedy, and we're hoping that it's going to be funny. So check it out this Saturday at 7 p.m. to see, is there another comedy script out there that can make you laugh? We're hoping that's the case, but if not, we will be having laughs, making fun of how bad it is.
All right, sounds good. Price, what you got coming up? Show tonight, I imagine, two of them.
At 10 p.m. on Price of Reason Live, there's a Quantum Leap rewatch party along with, Script, a few other friends. And then at 11:45 p.m., also on my live channel, there's The Night Owl with my friend Professor R2.
All right, sorry about that. We got Nick. What you got going on?
I will be on Comics Division's Thursday night throwdown. Tomorrow, no Clobby's Comic Shop because it's my daughter's proper birthday tomorrow, so I'm going to celebrate it with her, even though we did a thing for her a few days ago. We'll be back though next week, and Toxic Tuesday, we start our Bond month, and we start this coming Tuesday with the remaining Roger Moore movies and the 2 Timothy Dalton. So we're gonna pick up where we left off from last year with Octopussy.
Nice.
So yeah, I love Octopussy. It's one of my favorite Moore ones. So I can't wait to get on it. So yeah, we're gonna do that. A View to a Kill, and then The Living Daylights and License to Kill. It's gonna be a fun month talking some 007.
Man, you're gonna have a lot of fun with the insights on what Dalton brought to the role.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Mhm.
I can't wait to talk about those ones. I think they're very underrated. Very underrated.
Yep.
All right. And of course, D-Bud's sharing all the links in the chat. So check these guys out if you haven't already. Do yourself a favor. And me, I don't know. I might bop into TNT. I might not. You never know where I might show up. Hell, I might even bop in with Price of Reason later. Oh, I'll try to come.
That would be cool.
If not, you never know. If not, I'm definitely on the morning show tomorrow. So take care of yourselves and each other. Oops, we got one more super chat I missed here. Glade Ribbon is dangerously sober, says in 5. It's a Starlink changing demographics by letting us rednecks having high-speed internet. Ooh.
It's about time you guys are getting high-speed internet there.
Well, I've heard it's gotten better. I haven't used it myself. I think CC uses it, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, yeah. There you go. D-Bud says his father did work on A View to a Kill. Interesting. I wonder what kind of work. You have to hit him up. Ask him.
Yeah, D-Bud. If you want to come on for one, let me know, brother.
Culture's birthday tonight.
Oh, Culture's birthday is here. Oh, dude, we're gonna
is it
shred
today or
on
tomorrow? I can't remember. I think it's tomorrow. I could be wrong though. It's either today or tomorrow. All right. With that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time to get on out of here. Take care of yourselves and each other, and tell everybody hello wherever I send you. Take care.